Thank you for joining us on episode 15 of the Zero Basis Points podcast. We have today with us Brad Frey. Brad, welcome.
Hey guys, how are you? Good to see
Doing
you,
well.
Haik.
Thanks
Good
so
to see you,
much.
George.
Man, happy to have you, Brad.
Yeah, we've been
Happy to be
talking
here.
about you for a while now, and we've come across each other at the conferences, whether it was Edge, Impact, and so for us, it was a natural selection of, hey, who do we want on here? Brad is someone we've seen all these years. Let's have him on, and we're excited with what you're doing at Conquest. So, give us kind of the high level background of what you've been up to and where you are today.
Oh, gosh, high level background. It's been a bit. But yeah, really appreciate being on, guys. It's always good to see you on the road and happy to be on the podcast. But look, it's been about a year. I'm almost at a year here at Conquest Planning, but it's been a long journey. I've been in the financial services industry for a couple decades now, plus. I'm a retiring golf pro. We could go off on that for a while. So after being in the golf industry for a while, I got bit by the financial services bug, if you will. My first jump into it. My father was, I'm not going to say financial advisor, but more stockbroker. Like he was old school stockbroker guy doing covered calls and all that fun stuff. So I got into the financial services industry and was an advisor with him. And I just realized that in the golf industry, every day that ended in Y was a work day. And it got to be really hard on a young family. So been in financial services, pivoted from him, got to, been at companies like Western and Southern. And in 2012, I joined this weird company called eMoney. I remember my wife was about to have wrist surgery, and I'm not joking, guys. Literally, right as she was about to go under, getting gassed, I told her that I was about to take a job in West Conshohocken. In Conshohocken, I actually had to ask the taxi driver how to pronounce the city. George, you'll appreciate this, but
Conchi.
Conchi, yeah. I went to Conchi. I went to the residence in there in Conchi for the first time, and 2012, it really, I got bit by the fintech bug then in 2012 and was blessed to spend about 7 years at eMoney. And so since then, I've been just addicted to fintech. I've been addicted to it, and particularly leaning towards financial planning platforms. I think for me as a financial advisor, I always felt uncomfortable taking care of someone's money. Here, I get to help the advisor, help the client, help the firm, and it feels like a more full circle event, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. So 2012 eMoney, and bounced around a little bit, but I'm really excited to be here at Conquest.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, all the years, kind of that, like 2012, and I entered the space around 2009, but I always said, like, I was CRM, but when we talked about planning tools, we were always talking about eMoney or Money Guide Pro. And I was like, it's the Coke and Pepsi war. eMoney, Coke, because it's a cash flow tool. It's just an easy way to remember. Money Guide Pro was a goal-based planning tool. And then Reich Capital came in, and I said, that's your RC. And
That's
so
the RC
I don't
Cola.
know. And
Oh my
so
God.
what the best thing I could say is it's probably a blend of both.
That's kind of
'cause it's
funny.
newer
I'm a kind of a Mountain Dew guy that I had the Pepsi or no. Well,
It's funny you say that. I refer to it, Brad, is like I just started drinking soda like a year ago, but my
Wow.
friends call it. I have a couple friends that call it boomer juice, and like I love Diet Dr Pepper, but I did a trip with my brother this summer who got me on to zero cal Diet Mountain Dew, which is incredible because after a couple espressos, you want something a little bit more refreshing.
Yeah.
But
You want some other form of
so a
caffeine.
boomer juice commercial. But but in that context of like, I knew how to integrate with financial planning tools, the kind of things I just said, some lean goal based, some lean cash flow based. RC maybe does both. I have no idea really. But like, what's Conquest doing that's new? Because I really don't know, other than that you're a beast and somebody to pay attention to.
Yeah, it's important to kind of go backwards a little bit because Conquest Planning might be like a new name to some people, but it's really not. This is the former Navaplan founders getting the band back together in 2018. So you guys remember Navaplan, right? Real quick, there was a sale of Navaplan in 2011. Coincidentally, remember I started at eMoney in 2012, kind of put that in your back pocket. So Dr. Mark Evans and his team had an opportunity to exit the business sell Navaplan, and at the time, Financial Profiles. I know that you guys had your boy Craig Olencott on, and he, of
Yep.
course, was with Financial Profiles, so he was part of that team as well. There's an opportunity to exit, and they've unfortunately seen Navaplan kind of go away a little bit. They promised to innovate and all this stuff. So, fast forward 7 years, 2018, the band gets back together and forms Conquest Planning. It's 7 founders coming back together, and now we're about 170, 180 proud. So Conquest Planning has really dominated in this space. Started in Canada, just like Navaplan did back in the 90s, and kind of starting to move into the United States and even in the UK. Since starting in 2018, we are almost 70% of the marketplace in Canada alone. If you go and look at any bank or any company that ends in life or any RIA up there, I know that they kind of coined themselves a little bit differently in Canada. They are using Conquest Planning. Why? I'll tell you in a little bit. 2025 was the big push here in the US, and we are mainly enterprise only. We've been very blessed that we raised our Series B in June. That Series B has really allowed us to accelerate. If you look at the folks in that Series B, I think you can do the math of who's going to be future clients of ours. They really believe in what we're doing, led by Goldman, Citi, TIA, Portage is in there, Canopy, USAA, many firms like that. So I wanted to give a brief history of that because I think there's a lot of folks that still are like, I know a little bit about Conquest Planning, but like, where'd you come from? So I think it's also important that there was some very, I would say, cultish Navaplan users in the day, right? They really believed in what was going on at Navaplan, and it's kind of sad to see what's happened to it. So at Conquest, we were seeing a few things in the industry that were a major problem. Number one, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, George, there was this thing of, do I use Money Guide for goal planning and eMoney for cash flow planning? You guys would be shocked and bewildered how many people are using both of those tools. And in some cases, a spreadsheet on top of that. Like, are you serious right now? So that's a real problem. So we wanted to be able to plan across the entire wealth spectrum. So that's number one problem. We want to get plans into the hands of as many Americans and people across the world. If you look at some statistics, about 90% of the population across the globe does not have a financial plan. Now, here in the US, it's a little bit better.
Of course.
That statistic is a little bit better because we're so fintech forward. But that's really sad. So we really want to go global and help solve that problem. Number two, this lack of integration. So many firms want you to integrate with them the way they want to, and the firm has no say in it. Here's our data points. Good luck. Have a great day. This is how you're going to integrate with eMoney. This is how you're going to integrate with MGP. These are the data points you're going to get. Good luck. Yep. So we wanted to be fully open two-way API. So we are fully open two-way API. We are incredibly enterprise configurable as well. And I think the final thing is we wanted to make sure that AI was a real big part of the system, and we can talk about that a little bit more, but you'll hear a lot about Sam today. Sam is our strategic advice manager, and he's kind of our caddy to the golfer. He's a Stevie Williams to the Tiger Woods. He knows exactly what to do. And the biggest problem, I think, with the traditional planning tools is the advisors are forced to do trial and error planning. Okay, I have the facts about my client, and now I've got to go, well, what if? What if? And I have to build those what ifs. What if you had a smart assistant that actually knew the client's tax situation, where they lived, how many kids they have, all their goals, aspirations, their wants, wishes, and worries, and knew exactly the next best action to take that was contextual to the client. So those are some of the fun things that are happening at Conquest Planning.
That's awesome. And I'll work kind of backwards because I have a lot of questions, and obviously there's a lot of innovation there. And I've sat in the seat you just described where I had to, for a bunch of financial and relationship managers, do all that what ifs and then send them in because we had one license This is at my time at Atlantic Trust way back in the day in Boston, the Safran,
Yeah.
where we had to send in all the allocations. They'd pump out a report. It would come back and they'd be like, no, these numbers don't look great. Do this other one. And so what I did instead was I set up a correlation matrix in Excel. I started knowing kind of backwards engineering, reverse engineering that process. So I knew without sending it back and forth and the delay, I could put in a bunch of stuff quickly. Then when that looked good, then send it in. But if you're doing it with AI, contextualizing it, that's awesome. And that's what the industry needs. So hopefully you guys are building that out and I'm looking forward to it. But I'll go back to the golf thing. I'm actually super intrigued that you're a retiring PGA pro. And I know I saw the post you made yesterday for the workouts that you're doing. And obviously life happens, things happen. But I have a little section for George every time I try to keep him honest about working out. So I love that you're working out. So just give us a little bit about the fitness side of the world, Brad, before we jump into the technicals.
Yeah, so I actually quit college to become a golf pro in like 1993, 4, 5. I actually got my Class A status in 1995. So I've
Wow.
been a golfer since I was 10. It was funny, the club that I'm a member at now, it's a fun, really inexpensive. We kind of joke that we're a bar next to a golf course, really, and a lot of great golfers. There's no doubt about it. But we are an incredibly fun social club here in Cincinnati called Ivy Hills Country Club. But golf puts wear and tear on your body, right? It
Definitely.
really does, and none of us are really good at making sure that we stretch appropriately before rounds and really that we're warmed up. And I think that wear and tear has gotten to me. I've had knee surgery, I've had other stuff, wrist surgery. But over the past 20 years or so, I've always tried to stay fit, but some nagging back stuff was coming up a lot. You
Yep.
guys probably didn't know it, but I'm sitting there eating Advil at conferences trying to stand all day, right? And that compression wears on your back.
Definitely.
So finally, it came to a halt around this time last year. It was really December, January that it got excruciatingly bad. Fast forward, L4, L5 in my back basically burst. It herniated, and it was sitting on my sciatic nerve, shooting down my left leg. And it was debilitating. It really was. It's a really humbling experience, but I was blessed that a lot of great friends knew of a great surgeon at UC. If you guys remember Damar Hamlin, University of Cincinnati is where they kind of brought him back to life
Yeah.
when he got his bad tackle. But University of Cincinnati, I did back surgery. So fast forward to the fitness part, I try to stay active as much as possible. I try to stay low impact. So I do a lot of elliptical and just bench pressing, curls, a lot of core and back stuff too. I'm on the floor a lot. I'll
Yeah.
do a set of bench and I'll get straight to the floor and do pigeons and, cat, cow, whatever, all that
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm constantly doing that. But yeah, the PGA world, it was great. I think it really helped shape me from a sales perspective, that personal skill that you
Of
need
course.
to manage all those people. But yeah, I try to get out there and work out at worst a couple times a week. 3 is the goal. I have a bike trail literally right outside my front door, so I'll sometimes in between calls go crank, a couple miles out there as well.
That's awesome. No, and George, I mean, I'm gonna ask you now because after that, I don't know how you follow up, but you've been pretty good this week, right?
Well, I'll follow up to that. Like Haik, I'm supposed to work out 7 days a week as an ARCA employee. Like you have to get
It's not
stronger.
7. It's like minimum 5. 7 is your choosing.
Right.
and you better be adding weight. So, but generally, like I'm trying to, like I told Haik, until the pandemic, I was at the gym 5 days a week. Like I was one of the first people I was the early crowd. I used to even say like my day peaked at the gym because I loved it so much. I would work out, elliptical, sauna, and loved it. Have headphones in, listen to a podcast. So it would give me so much of what I was going to push on the rest of the day. And then pandemic came, and obviously, like I stopped going to the gym. Paid for the membership for a couple of years,
Yeah.
but now I've revitalized that membership for kind of the pool reasons. But what I was telling Haik and Pete, the co-founders, of ARCA, I don't want to, like, I have 3 little kids. One is 16, 10, and 5. I am still picking up kids, under their arms and throwing them over my shoulder. I don't want to throw out a hip. I don't want to like hurt my wrist. It's like the things that we're talking about. So Pete DiLorenzo gave me, he's like my personal trainer, and I have like a workout that I have to stick to. But I've graduated more to the weights, which I've been doing 5 days a week for the last since a recent slump. But aside from that slump, I ideally I'm doing it 5 days a week, sometime between 3 and 5 if I'm slacking. But
Yeah. So then we
it's
give him a hard
important.
time if he skips out. So we force him to stay on it.
I
Right.
hear
Well,
you.
I'll just say in a book I'm reading and everything, like Haik will send me clips. There is a correlation between your health and your ability to sell and the success of your organization. Crazy correlation on this one thread that you sent me, Haik. So, some of the biggest companies, their CEOs are, putting up big weight, and Haik is probably putting up more than them. So, I follow him into the jungle.
Yeah.
It's the deadlift ETF, Brad, for folks also listening who don't know. But there's this guy out there on Twitter, on X. He basically put out this thing where I'm going to create an ETF that's comprised of all the companies of CEOs who work out and deadlift primarily,
Okay.
and they have all the folks. And I think he said over the last 3 years or so, it's like outpacing the S&P 140% or something like that. So
Wow.
it's like, yeah, so he takes the correlation of fitness with performance and selling and, discipline, which obviously we all know, you yourself being a golfer, like how much discipline it takes to just do good work, but also, you come across different personalities in this business. You have to know how to deal with them. Sometimes it's an obstacle. Sometimes you got to get through the front door and it's different people that you got to, talk to. So I think a lot of sports and just being under pressure gives you that expertise and that experience that you don't shy away from, the cold calling if you have to, or reaching out, or the warm introductions of how to lead it. So I think it all plays into the grand scheme of things, right? So that's why we
It,
support it.
yeah, but all my kids were, student athletes going through. And my son actually played club golf at Alabama as well. I truly think that they are going to be fantastic employees, and he's the assistant pro at our club as well, and aspiring to do a lot more. But my daughter's played soccer, volleyball, all that stuff. And I think that discipline, I'm like, you guys are going to be kick-ass employees wherever you guys go. That determination, that having to make sure you're scheduling appropriately. All right, I got to go lifting, I got practice, and then I got to do homework. All that stuff is preparing them for the big world. So, without
Yeah,
a doubt.
that's awesome. Well, kind of transitioning to the corporate world and everything we've been doing. So around George, we met T3 2024. We were talking AI at the time. Not many were. Obviously, the ones that were was kind of, I would say haphazardly OCR and things like that existed, not true AI. But now the world has kind of caught up. We're getting a lot of inbound stuff of people asking what else AI can do. And Brad, for your kind of knowledge with Arca, we went from just doing kind of the core script, which is our product where we were parsing out stuff from documents, leveraging AI instead of the OCR and template-based solutions. We're now into the agentic stuff where we have agents that our clients can deploy that open up accounts, take a bunch of like forms and read them and then hit Pershing, Fidelity, their own books and records, etc. But I'm curious in the financial planning world because it's a little longer of a timeline and lifeline, right? For them, you have the eMoneys and all these things that existed for so long. What's the AI aspect of financial planning you guys are doing, and what's SAM specifically?
Yeah, SAM, as I mentioned before, stands for Strategic Advice Manager. And really, Sam, he can be called AI, but we actually call him a smart assistant. We've got other AI things going on right now. And for those that might have been at Advise AI, I think you guys were as well, our chief product officer was able to kind of show some of the future on that. So I'll put a little ping in that if you were there, you got a chance to see him kind of interact with Claude and how Claude's going to interact with MCPs and then MCPs into Conquest. So but Sam is a smart assistant. Again, we kind of talked back. It's the Stevie Williams to Tiger Woods. It's the caddy to the golfer. Um, he knows exactly what shot to hit, what the carry is over the water, over the bunker, what the wind is doing. how Tiger is feeling. Is he juiced up? Is he not? Like, right?
Yeah.
Everything about what the client's next best action they should take, that caddy knows what to do. And he's going to sit there and say, here's the club, and this is the shot that you should take, right? This is the model that you should implement. This is the raw strategy you should do. This is what you should do with Social Security. This is exactly what you should do. So what he does is he goes through and he recontextualizes, he re-ranks, reprioritizes every time you apply a new strategy. So he's going to come up with strategies and he's going to give you the answers at the back of the math textbook, right?
Yeah.
Every time we know, like, if I apply this, how's that going to affect retirement? How's that going to affect my Disney vacation? How's that going to affect my legacy, right? What's it going to do to my cash flow? Sam will give you the answers at the back of the math textbook too, and tell you exactly what it will do if you apply said strategy. So Sam is taking out that trial and error planning. I can't tell you how much it is such a problem in the industry for people to go through and say, and the other thing is advisors get extremely laser focused and they focus on just these strategies.
Yeah.
Sam's going to also come up with ideas that they may not have thought about. I notice that you are not giving money to charities. Do you want to do
Yeah.
that? You don't have a power of attorney. You don't have a will. Have you thought about doing a line of credit? All that. All those things he's going to, again, re-rank every time a strategy is applied, going to re-rank, reprioritize, and offer the next best action, the next best strategy. And then we have this other cool thing called auto plan with Sam, where you literally can click on it and he just sits there and solves the plan. He's like, all right, I know all your goals. I know where the kids want to go to school. I see you got the vacations. I see you got that. I see what your legacy goal is. Go ahead and sit back and let me take this. And literally in minutes, you can see not only will he create the strategy list for you, but also a to-do list. Talk about kicking off workflows. We also, because we're fully open to API, our platform allows us to kind of push off. Do you want to open up the new account because we said that you need to do this? Do you want us to go ahead and send this to Orion and do the reallocation of the 60/40 allocation? Yep, we can do that. Do you want us to do that? So we can also help kick off workflows as well. But yeah, Sam acts as that smart assistant. And again, that's kind of the tipping point of how we're using AI. There's a lot more on the table.
Yeah. And that sounds, I think you guys, from where we were approaching, I think you guys are on the money because a lot of folks are thinking AI is just slapping that chatbot onto the product that they have and saying we have AI, right? But we know in the financial world, it's all interconnected. If you can do something in one place, like you said with Sam, you're going to then have to push it to Orion. You're going to have to kind of be that connective tissue in between all these other systems. And luckily, with tech kind of producing and opening up so fast, you're going to want to latch onto other systems. All these other larger institutions who have legacy systems, you're almost stuck where it's like, well, how do I push it out there? If you're using some spreadsheet, I'm not going to really, as an AI agent, be able to do that, etc. So functionality becomes less of an issue. It's just responses and chat, which sure, that's great, but that's just like that tipping point between you actually getting something, an insight, and then doing something with it. So that's exciting. And I know everyone is one day going to have it. Everyone's going to add a chatbot on there and say, hey, we have AI, right? So if you guys are looking at it from a future proofing standpoint of what you're going to be able to do, I think that's awesome.
Well, yeah, to speak of chatbot, another cool thing that Sam can do, and we're still beta testing it, but talk to Sam.
Yeah.
You can actually talk to Sam and say, hey, can you open up a retirement inflows and outflows report for me? Sure, I'll pull that up for you. Hey, can you show me what this plan's going to do if the client lives longer? Yep, I can do that. Here's a what if strategy for that. Can you run this through Monte Carlo? Oh, by the way, can you take me to the knowledge base? I forget how to do this. Yep, I'll take you there. So speaking to Sam, I think that's going to be something that's going to be more and more adopted, being able to kind of speak to the system as well. But yeah, ask Sam, and then we have some, again, other really fun stuff that's happening as well. But to kind of finish off one of your points, again, trial and error planning, pain in the neck. You can see Michael Kitces still say that it takes up to 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours to do a full-fledged financial plan. But then it's like, now I've got to implement those strategies. most of the folks take the old plan, go here, and then they have to go into Orion. They got to go into the CRM. They got to go in. So if we can help kick off those workflows, so that's again, being fully open to API sounds really dumb for a lot of the advisors that might listen to this, but your back office, prod dev people are gonna be like, oh, sweet, we finally can kick this off and actually take your plan to action.
I think it's not silly at all because when we started Arca, we reached out to a bunch of financial planning software. It's not Conquest because, at that point we were just kind of looking around what clients were coming to us with. And one of them was Right Capital. And we asked and we, went in and tried to get access to it. And we realized that we had to build to what they wanted, just like you said. And it wasn't that open,
Old
although that's how it's
architecture.
marketed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
My entire career, I have thought that eMoney is extremely stubborn to integrate with. So when you do want to do something really cool with enterprise, you're kind of like, yeah, it can't be that cool because it's eMoney. I came from a firm that was like one of their first longtime users. So I think it's super cool that you do that because everything that we're dealing with, even at Arca in my previous role, we're trying to integrate with these tools in ways that are meaningful. Because there was like in 2010, it was okay to list a logo on your website and you can tell the advisor that you integrated. And then like pretty quickly, it's like, okay, well, to what degree do you really integrate? Because you can say that and you've got a lot of logos, but it's all BS. Like, come on. Is it meaningful and useful to the advisors? And if it's not, it's a waste of time.
And again, great planning tools that they have success, right? They have a lot of users.
100%.
Some of it is just like legacy. I don't want to change. So that's that rate of change. That's a whole nother ball of wax. But the problem is they're just built on old architecture. So one of the things, when they built Navaplan, they built this cute little house, this cottage, right? And they started stacking stuff on top of it. And it got tilty, right? There's multiple versions. There was a Canadian version, there was a US version, right? They had all these different versions. We built a really strong fortress conquest. And I can literally in my demo environment flip to the Canadian version. I can flip to the UK version. I can flip to the US right inside the same. So we really wanted it to be nimble and to be able to develop. And whenever we want to enter different jurisdiction, it's just different tax, right? It's just different tax. So we're really, really, really good at taxes. We got a lot of tax nerds at Conquest. So, but yeah, I think it's just when folks are dealing that and they see all these integrations at all these different mainstays, it's like, how good is that integration and what does it really do? Well, do you really want to build an integration that's kick ass and you can actually integrate the way that you want to? You can only do that with a fully open 2-way API platform like ours.
That's awesome. And one of the things, like I said, back then when we had CoreScript, which was the first thing, I call it our seeing eye for the AI at this point because it's multi-purpose for all the forms and everything else we're doing. But before that, it was a lot of folks who were coming in with accounts that said, hey, here's my statement. I want this to be fed into the financial planning software. And Right Capital is one of the ones that do our founders and everything else, our co-founders, we were connected to in a way where we thought we can reach out and kind of get that squared up and get an integration. But then we realized it was so limited. And how much of an integration, like as George said, do you really have if you can't give me like Swagger docs and for me to actually go build on it? That it needs to be this like big thing and a big lift, etc., which means that it's probably not as much of an integration as a custom build, right? And I think that's where the world of fintech and wealth management starts falling apart, because if we got to build a custom route to each thing, it's just going to be a really big mess. And if I got to transform data that I'm reading from a statement into this to these values over here, but this can't be then moved over to the third system, etc., I think you start losing kind of the real point of an integration at that point. So
Yeah, we took when
awesome.
we offer folks access to our UAT environment and our API docs, they're like, holy cow. They're like just thousands and thousands of API endpoints. It's like there's nothing in Conquest that's not an API. This isn't a little iframe that you can put over here. Like this is like if you wanted to create your own UI UX skin and just consume our APIs and somewhere you just put powered by Conquest, knock your socks off. That's actually been done. Some of our Canadian firms like like Sun Life and others have actually created their own skin. It looks nothing like Conquest at all, but they just consume our APIs and make it look like their Sun Life experience. So it's really cool to be able to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so important to be able to, as a fintech provider, that when you're talking to these large enterprises, they say, we like what you're doing. It just needs to happen inside of our bubble.
Yep.
It's like, okay.
Yep.
So yeah, that to what you just said, that's like they want to own the experience. So yeah, that's the way you have to build. And I've found the same in Wealthbox and some other vendors, but that's awesome to hear the same about Conquest.
I
And
think
having
everyone
that,
who's doing it right is doing it that way. Let's put it that way.
and not only do they want to own their own experience, they finally want appropriate user roles, right? They want to put their own
Right.
proprietary products and their models in there, like down to the nth degree. It's like one thing to have your models in there, but actually, the Monte Carlo to do this, we can actually have Sam, like we can give people the book of Sam, but if they wanted to put some of their own Sam versioning in there, we can do that as well. So, but again, it's gotta make sense, right? We still want to be like fiduciary, right, and do the right
Of course.
thing. Yeah, being able to put your own proprietary products, your own models in there, that's super important to these firms. And also they want the data back and they want analytics, like who's logging in, who's doing this. A lot of the mainstays can't do that. Not in, again, just financial planning, but just some of the older tools. They can't give data back to them. Those important KPIs and who's logging in, how many plans have we created, what's going on in this age range, can we do that? So a lot of great feedback and data that we can give back to them as well.
Speaking of kind of like the older tools, I think one thing to just throw out there, like eMoney and Money Guide, etc., had to like crawl and walk so then Conquest and Right Capital and all these others can run, right? And it's become such a central part, I would say, as much as almost as much as like CRMs for these businesses. But what was your time like at like eMoney when you were there at that inflection point of things kind of changing? I've heard some wild stories, just admittedly, from being in the industry. And this was before my time. I started at Adipar around 2015. So like this was before eMoney and the financial planning craze was before my time. But I've heard all the stories, but would love to hear from you, Brad. You were there in person. Like, how was it selling eMoney? Like, was it mind blowing to these people at that time because they were just used to doing spreadsheets and paper? And then, what did that transform into?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And it's funny, the Adipar, your Adipar to Black Bar is like I think where we first met, that transition, if you
Exactly. Yeah.
remember. I think I made the move from eMoney to Advisor Engine, and you and I connected way back when, if you remember correctly. That was like I was like trying to remember the day and time. I usually pretty good about that. But yeah, I still, again, I'm going from this Western and Southern 1888 life insurance company to this weird company in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania called eMoney. And again, I remember vividly my taxi ride from the Philadelphia airport. My taxi driver's name was Mohammed. And I'm like, I don't have any idea that like Muhammad was like our driver. Like back then
Yeah.
there was no Ubers or Lyfts in 2012. It was like you had taxis, but they had this specific taxi driver that he was the shuttle back and forth for all of us. And the sales team was growing really well. So Charlie Clark was the head of sales there. Drew DiMarino was there. Mike Hemmert was there. Allison Susko, now at Asset Map, was there. God, there's so many people. Roger Romero. God, I could go on and on. Monica Ruelas, just all these great, cool people. Jim Finnegan, his sister Kate, ton of people. And so I remember going and I'm like, what in the world is happening? I used to wear a suit every day, and they're like, don't ever wear a tie or a
Yeah.
jacket in this place ever. I'm like, what is going on? It was a shock to my system, and it was incredible. I think I was employee like 50, 60-ish, somewhere in that area. And by the time I left, they grew to around 300. And it was a spaceship. We were on a spaceship going up in the world, and it just went like this. Remember, the timing worked out really well that Navaplan had been sold,
Hmm.
and it was kind of starting to get neglected. And demoing eMoney at that time, they did not have the decision center yet, but the client portal was so vital. Like out of the first client portals they were like the first client portal that was kick butt. And being able to actually show people, like, you can put your wedding photos in a folder and you can put your trusts and your wills and all this. And they're like, what is going on? And then aggregation was getting really big, right? We had
Yeah.
built-in aggregation and you could connect to your Schwab account and all this. And during their trial, they could connect to all of their accounts at LPL or wherever. And literally during trial, it like paved the way to sell. So I'm very blessed. It was an amazing spot to be. It was 7 years of my career that I was there. I made a ton of friends that are still friends today. I still see Hemmert. I saw Drew. Drew's at Zox now, right? And he came up to me, gave me a big hug at at Future Proof this year. He's like, dude, let's integrate. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
I see Roger Romero everywhere. Like we are, I would say eMoney is probably the coolest fintech alumni, bar none, will go up against anyone. It was a cultish type environment in a good way.
Yeah.
George, you've heard me say this. Edmund made you want to run through a wall.
Yeah.
In any meeting, he made you want to run through a wall. I want to run through a wall here, by the way, as well. But he made you want to run through a wall. I remember Charlie Clark, and I give a lot of credit to Charlie. Like, he's been a great, like, mentor to me, almost like an uncle. I remember Charlie vividly. We sat down like one of the first weeks. I went to Conchi almost every week for a few months to start. And he said, Brad, there's only a few times in your career that it's a moment in time that you can bottle up and just, something's going to happen. And he's like, I know it's going to happen here. Just enjoy it, do the ride, and there's only a few of those times in your life, and it's real. Like it is real in your career that there's a few moments in time where you get to capture lightning in a bottle like that. So we had
For
some
sure.
fun
Yeah.
stuff.
I love it. That's how I feel here. But you know what? One of the cool things that you say is that client portal of eMoney's, because I've called client portals the indoor pool of the financial services space. It's like, yo, you're psyched the hotel has an indoor pool that nobody's going to use. And like, who would want to go in that pool anyway? So, but the eMoney client portal, we competed with a Grendel because we had a client portal. We had a selling agreement with Cash Edge under the hood, an agreement where we could because if you could get somebody into your platform, aggregate accounts or emails, and you could use a direct feed from a custodian to populate it, we were closing you 84% of the time at Grendel. And that was like a part of the metric, even as we sold, that we brought up a lot. Because so pre-population with accurate data is like, wow, so this thing's how you run, as opposed to going into a trial. But your client portal was the standard of client portals.
Mm-hmm.
And then at eMoney, I'm remembering this. Then we found out how much money you guys were making off the videos. So if I'm an RIA and I have a client portal, you would produce a video that made me look like I had this like high-end production team. So you were like the Lamborghini of SaaS to the end. And until they sold to Fidelity and Edmund called them a bunch of Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
That's why I love I would, his
That was an
stories.
interesting day. I remember it at that time. I think like Teams or whatever was still really early in 2018. And I remember getting messages about that day. That was very interesting. But to go back to the videos, this is really crazy, George. I remember vividly going into the office in Conchi, and back by the receptionist area, they had DVDs. They
Right.
had the DVD disc, and they would send them to you, right? We would send the
That's
discs
awesome.
to and yeah, the videos of Ron Carson and Patty Brennan and all these people, they're still out there on the internet. You can find some of them out there. But that was differentiation, and it really goes back to creating that kind of, well, we're working on raving fans, like, right? Creating raving fans. Um, Creating raving fans who will speak not just openly about you, but applaud everything that you do. It's, again, intoxicating
Yeah.
to them. You want to be a part of it. There was an intoxication, and we're really blessed that that's happening here at Conquest. If you follow us on LinkedIn, there's advisors all over the place that are posting videos about us and just creating raving fans. So when you can create a cool fintech tool, that's number one. If you can get a founder that just like you can hear a pin drop in the room when he or she is talking about it. That's number two. Then when you get the clients that are willing to be like, I will buy it for you if you want. Like we would get just referrals. Hey, my buddy at LPL told us that I need to call you guys at eMoney, at Conquest, at whatever. When you start getting that, that's a whole nother ball of wax. Like there's something over there that I need to be a part of. It's amazing how many we get it here, had it there. I've heard about you. I really don't know exactly what you do, but I gotta be a part of it. That's so cool when the planets align like that.
Yeah, I one of the books that I recommended to George was Crossing the Chasm, and I think
Right.
those evangelists. First, you're gonna have those early adopters, right? And you prove out and have quality software that then you get evangelists for who are doing your outreach essentially for you. And I had a call recently with one of these folks who were asking us, like for Arca specifically, like how are you guys getting clients and talking to these people because AI is so hard to adopt and everything. And I was like, look, the way we approach it is we've built something that's scalable, it has the quality, and the thing that we're automating and working with AI the most is the boring stuff that the people don't want to do. So that's like my easiest kind of intro to their adoption of how they can use it. I don't have to take something they like and say, I'm going to have AI do it now because they're like, I actually enjoy that part of my day. Why would I give it to AI? Instead, I'm saying, that part you don't like, let's just do that. And then slowly it starts creeping into everything else because there's so much more that they don't like that they want to throw at it versus, the part they want to focus on. And I think once you get enough evangelists around talking about the product, even kind of word of mouth, there is this noise that starts accumulating, right? The thunder, the lightning in the bottle, where you're like, at some point it just kind of gets released and everyone else starts kind of jumping on it. And I have that feeling because in T3 2024, we were early when we were talking about, Chat GPT was out about a couple of months at that point. Most financial advisors hadn't even logged in. Their kids were using it maybe, and they had heard about it. So when we showed them, hey, you ask questions and get insights, they were like, how's this going to work with my system? And I have so much data and whatever. The next T3 in 2025, we actually had people lined up saying, well, can it do XYZ? And I've used it already and I know it can do this. Can it do more? So I think that's, if you can kind of build a company where you start doing that and that model can be replicated, I think you have gold, you're sitting on something.
Yeah, imagine a day, that, and I'm kind of teasing something right now, but like I've seen this happen, our product folks, our dev folks, where we can take an unstructured document and actually put it in and then match it to our JSON here at Conquest, exactly what it is. So we're working with a large custodian and we took an unstructured file from them. They kind of masked out all the important PII data, right? And just gave us F, first name, last name. So FL for the first name for all the people. We took this unstructured document, put it into, ChatGPT and said, hey, I want you to create a financial planning Conquest, match it to our JSON. And by the way, go ahead and add an income and add this goal, do a couple other things. It just did it right away. I'd beg you to contact the other guys and see if they're doing that. That's number one. But number two, again, can we take a plan from one of the competitors? Could we take a trust document? Could we take a will? So yeah, you've got a whole list of plans of the world, upload a tax document, great. FP Alpha, etc. But that's one thing. I want to be able to take any document, any unstructured, a Schwab statement, any statement, put it in, upload it. That's the next thing coming inside of Conquest. We're gonna have a Staples Easy button that says, "Oh, you want to create a new client? Would you like to do it from a PDF?" Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually would. What PDF doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and find all the appropriate data, and I'm going to create a financial plan for you. So there's going to be checks and balances.
Of
Do you
course.
like the data? Does it look good? Yep. All that's happening. So really excited. We've got a very tech forward RIA that my teammate and I are working with right now, and they've got a lot of my former company's stuff
Yeah.
in PDF format, and they're like, we want to get all these plans over into Conquest. We're like, cool, we can do that for you.
You heard it here first, folks. So no, I like it, Brad. That's going to be the next level. I think that's a
Yeah.
lot of our business is PDF focused. We need to get away from it. But up until the point that we do, we need to have this hybrid model where we work with it. And that's why when we built CoreScript, it was first for alts and all this stuff. And then you need that seeing eye for the AI to do everything else, right? You need it to replicate what the human's going to sit there, do, and key in. And it's like, I'm going to give you that solution to get this in quickly. And then once I have that data, now it's memorialized in my system, the JSON. I can move it anywhere. I can ship it for you. We can test it out, scenario analysis, etc. But getting it from PDF into data is really the biggest piece.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Seems like PDFs, like OCR is going to join DVD and VCR.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know?
OCRs, it's kind of already old and stale to be truthful. It really is, like, and I've said that, like, oh, what do we, I'm still naive about a lot of stuff. Like, I think we all are in sales and just sell stuff, right? Like, it's cool and whatever develop it. I'm so blessed here. We're up to about 170, 80 employees. Nearly 100 of them are like dev. I'm like a kid in a candy store here. It's freaking awesome, right? Because they're just building some really cool stuff. And with that, I like to just ask sometimes dumb questions like, what do we think? Nah, OCR, nah. We got we're way over here. We're LLMs, MCPs,
Yeah, Brad, that's me here at Arca. You're
right.
talking to the,
Right.
yeah, they call
I'm
me
us in
Boomer.
sales. We're just like, I just sell stuff. It's magic to me. Like, it's just magic. I say that to Ken Lataki, our chief product officer. I'm like, Ken, it's just magic to me. He's like, Brad, it's not magic. I'm like, it is. It's magic.
Yeah.
To you, it's not, Ken. It really isn't. But to these advisors, if you can tell them that I can help scale, like I can help scale this business, I can help scale this move from your current planning tool to us a lot easier, and I can let you sleep at night, that matters. Like, AI adoption is going to be slow in this space. And I think the RA space is going to be faster, right? They get to do whatever they want. They're kind of Lord of the Flies. They get to pick stuff and do whatever they want. But, when I talk to the Sateras and the Cambridges and the Osaics of the world, they're going to move a little bit slower and make sure that, they got legal and compliance that they got to go through and make sure that we're doing the right things and there's not bad actors out there. But, it's going to be there. It is one of those that in this space, it's going to have to be adopted, and many are adopting it now. Pretty much all the CRM ones, Ox, Focal, all them, Zeppelin, etc. That's pretty much everywhere. But it's going to be the other things. I think Conquest and you and I are a little bit more over here. Like, I'm not sure exactly what I can do with you, but I think it'll help.
Yeah.
We talk about the art of the possible here a lot, and showing the art of the possible is really important to the client. Like, this is what it could look like. So
That's awesome. And you have a great team behind you. Yeah, like you mentioned Ken, and I see a bunch of the folks that, show up at the conferences, Sal and everyone, shout out to them. And I think that the team has been integral for how fast you guys have been spreading.
yeah,
And it's awesome when you have that support. And it is, at the end of the day, there's all this stuff that that needs to be done. And when it's done, it's like magic. You put it in front of the clients and the prospects, and it's like, look at this. This is, as you mentioned, the art of the possible is a big part of the sales cycle here too. And we tell people we're like the Palantirs of wealth management at this point for ARCA, because we come into an environment and we say, what do you want to do today? And then we'll start building kind of the rest of it. Luckily, everything we build is scalable, so we can rinse and repeat it. But AI is going to be a very interesting place, I think, in the next couple of months to years even. So that's awesome. So Brad, one thing I like to ask all our guests is, what do you like the most about our industry and what do you hate the most? And we're pretty transparent here. So, and you've been around for a long time, so give it a go.
yeah. I kind of to alluded to it back earlier when I was talking about my time as an advisor. I didn't like the fact of taking care of someone's money. Like, that's a lot of pressure. Where I am now in this space, I really like what I call the domino effect. I can help an advisor help their clients. I can help an Osaic. I can help a firm who helps their back office, who helps their clients, who helps comply. All this, like, there's this really cool domino effect that when I sell, and I hate to use that, I'm a relationship guy. I
Yep.
want to help people. I think there's something really cool about being able to help, again, selfishly in my space, in my position, being able to help a firm really see, again, this art of the possible of what we can do to completely transform the way that you are helping your back office, your advisors, your clients, and just seeing that win. Again, we have a cultish, Dr. Mark Evans created a cultish type following as well. We have like 50, 60 former Navy folks back here now, and the stuff that the BMOs of the world talk about us and like publicly without us asking, wanting to do articles and saying we partnered with Conquest and this is what they did to transform us. So being able to see that domino effect of positivity, that's really cool. What I hate about it, um, we're still really behind. I think there's still a lot of firms that are, and I'm looking at my whiteboard here at some of them that I talk to, right?
Yeah.
That are hesitant to move. They're like, we have our own proprietary built products that we just like, right? We're going to stick with our spreadsheets and our MS-DOS tools and whatever. I'm like, God love you, right? I think there's just still such hesitancy in this industry of some of the old guards protecting things that they built that are psychotically inefficient, and it just drives me nuts. Can't, like, I don't know why I care about that so much, like why does it matter? But it is frustrating that their hesitancy to change, and I think in some ways to kind of protect themselves of, we created this thing over here, it's our own proprietary calculator tool, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they're just hesitant to go outside and say, do you really want to build and maintain, or do you want to partner, right? Do you want to build, maintain? And we don't like to call Conquest partners customers. They're
Yeah.
partners of ours. Like, we are partnering together to create something cool together. Um, so I hope that that answered it. I think that's really the one. It's, you see it a lot. You see it a lot.
I think it's a great answer because from one sales guy to another, all we really ever sell is change. And so then everybody's really got to trust you. And that's how you're going to get them to change, by demonstrating expertise. And that's how you're going to sell them. But now in the age of AI, we're selling trust in the context of AI, which is even more of a challenge. But it's, when you talk about the art of the possible, what I like about you, Brad, is you've got to be able to see the vision, articulate it, maybe even down to a PowerPoint and like boxes and arrows to get it implemented. So I love the way that you think about it, and it's just really great to hear your perspective on all of it. So yeah,
I
spot on.
feel like we're gonna probably have another episode where we just dive into financial planning and bring you on and bring some of the product folks on and just say like,
Yeah.
all right, guys, show us what it's like at Conquest. But that would be awesome. But I want to thank you, Brad, for joining us. This has been awesome. I think we can go on for hours talking, and we have probably at conferences about different stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe doing one segment entirely just around financial planning and having you guys on and showcasing once everything is out there that you guys want to show.
I'd be super humbled to be able to do that. That would be awesome. Yeah. I think it's a very transformative and kind of scary time in our world with
For sure.
this AI, because again, I already mentioned it, um, financial advisors, the financial space is hesitant, but I think we are going to create together, you guys, us, Conquest, and many others, we're going to create some seriously amazing things for them. It's going to really help give so much time and efficiency back to, again, advisors and everybody else. So really appreciate it, guys. I'm very humbled, and thank you, guys. I can't wait to see you on the road again, give you a big hug. It's not going to be till probably, Jan, February, something
Yeah,
like that. Maybe,
2026 at this point.
maybe T3,
T3
something like
maybe,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for listening to episode 15 with Brad. And follow Conquest Planning if you haven't done so. Reach out to them and the team. I think they're doing amazing stuff, and we'll definitely have them on again. Thanks so much, guys.
thanks.
Thank you, guys.